HTML5 and CSS3 tutorials for beginners. Units of measurements in CSS. You can pause this screen anytime and take a look at the options available to us for using certain values such as percentage values, pixel values, CSS3 specific viewport height, viewport width, and so on. I've decided to provide some samples for you so that your knowledge expands. Let's imagine we'd like to size the font within the P element, which is our paragraphs. We can say font size 16 pixels if we want. Let's refresh the page. Let's hover over the paragraph element and let's look at its computed value for font size. It is 16 pixels. So let's get rid of that font size from the P element. Instead, do something like this. HTML, which is our root element, let's set font size there as 16 pixels. Save changes, refresh, and now we should still have font size computed as 16 pixels coming from the HTML. Now for our P element, let's follow this approach. Let's say font size to rem. When I think of rem, I always think of relative to the root, and root element being HTML. So therefore, when I say to rem, it's 2 times whatever the value I've set within the HTML. So in our example, 2 times 16 pixels will be 32 pixels. Let's refresh the page. Let's hover over the P element. Let's look at the font computed value is 32 pixels. Now, if I've set this at the HTML element, I could easily say, you know what? How about 200%? Save changes. Let's refresh. Let's hover over the P element. Let's look at its computed value. It's still 32 pixels. Makes sense? So times it by 2. 2 times 16 pixels. Makes sense? So that's another way of using different units of measurement in CSS. Keep in mind, we don't have to just use font size values. We can use these values for the width of the article if we want, and so on. While here, let me also say, heading 1 in this document should have font size as, let's say, 15 viewport width. Let's save changes and let's take a look at this heading 1. Let's refresh and let's actually resize our browser. As you can see, 15 viewport, that means 15% of the viewport width. We could have easily set that to viewport height if we want by using VH. Let's refresh, and while the height changes, so will the font size for the heading 1 element. So as you can see, there are many different ways for you to use the measurements available to you, and I'll talk with you in the next video session.